Okay, so rational numbers can be written as a fraction. So a rational exponent is an exponent that's a fraction. Why do you think it matters? Because you don't get the whole thing. One number. You can open the bag. Yes, I got it. You can. All right, so here we go. This one, square root of 7, square root of x, sorry, is 7. Did you know that on a square root there's always been a little 2 there, but you may not have ever seen it before? Raise your hand if you knew there was a little 2 there. It's about half, yeah. Okay. Square roots have a little 2 there, and so that makes room for something like this, which is not a square root, it's a cube root. So cube roots have a little 3 right there. Okay, we got it. Okay, back from a pause there on the recording. Okay, so now, when you have a little 3 here, that means cube root. When you have a fraction exponent, that's a mix of a square root or a cube root and then a regular squaring or cubing. Let me make sure you understand what I'm talking about here. I'm going to go through a few things really quick. Say I did this, square root of 8. That doesn't come out nice, does it? That means it's not a rational number. It's irrational. Okay, but the 8 could be written 8 to the 1/2 power. That means the exact same thing. Let's do another one. Let's say one you would understand a little better. What's the square root of 9? 3. So how could I write square root of 9? I could write it as 9 to the 1/2 power. Try it. Grab your calculator. Try 9 to the power of 1/2. You're going to get 3. It's because it means square root. If you haven't got one, borrow one from me. And by the way, when you do this, you go 9 to the 1/2. If you don't put a fraction around it, it won't work right. Otherwise, it'll just do 9 to the 1 power, and then it'll divide that by 2. And that would be wrong. And yes, if you do 9 to the 0.5 power, that's a smart way to do it. 9 caret 0.5. But I want you to get that whenever you put a fraction in your calculator, it's really smart to put a parentheses around it. That happens a lot when people are on the ACT test, and the problem's like this, 3 plus 4 over 7. And if they type it in exactly the way they see it, 3 plus 4 divided by 7, do you get it's going to do divide by 7 first? It'll do 4 divided by 7. And then it'll go back and add 2. And that's wrong. That's not what you want. So if you're typing in this problem, you want to put in the parentheses. Whenever you have fractions, it's smart to use parentheses in there. It'll never hurt. Okay. So this means 9 to the 0.5, which means, again, square root. And what's the square root of 9? It should have come out to 3. Raise your hand if you can verify it came out to 3. Okay, good. Then, if I asked you how to write the square root of 25, you could write it like this. Oops, I squished it there. Or you could write it like this. 25 to the 1/2. That means square root. All right, you got square roots. They're fraction exponents. All right, now let's talk about cube roots. Cube root of 8. What's that mean? It means something times something times something that makes 8. What would it be? Yes, that would mean 8 to the 1/3 power. But my question is really, what's the answer to it? 2. Because 2 times 2 times 2 makes 8. Can anybody smart figure out this? Say it if you know it. 5. Because 5 times 5 times 5 makes 125. Okay, so the answer to this is 5. How could I have written it as a 125 to a power? To the 1/3 power. All right, good. So then how do you handle problems like this? 4 to the 3/2 power. Would you agree that's got 2 parts to it? It's got the root part, and the root part is always on the bottom. That's a good idea to know when you're planting things. The root part always goes on the bottom. Maybe catch that. So the root part always is on the bottom. So then if the root part's on the bottom, this is the square root of 4. It's got a square root of 4 in it. Here's how I'm going to write it. That's a square root of 4, right? And notice there's 3 on the outside. Everybody shut your iPads for me. It's the part where I just need your full attention on what I'm showing you. And have you do a practice problem or two in a minute. All right. 4 to the 1/2 to the 3rd. Do you get, if I multiply these together, they're going to give me that? All right. So why did I separate them into 2 parts? Because now I can do it from the inside out. Remember, that's how you do hard math problems. Start on the inside. So what is this part? 2, and then I'd cube it. What's that? So the answer to this is 8. See how I broke it in 2 parts? You do the root part, and then you do the regular part, which is a normal cubing. All right, it's not cube root on the top. The top part is normal, except normally you put a 3 up there, it means cube. All right, so on your iPad now, try this one, 25 to the 3/2 power. Well, I hope you know you're going to start with this. 25 to the 1/2, and then to the 3rd. Could this get any trickier? Yes, it could. But what if there was another layer to the onion? You say onion or you say onion? Onion. I don't know. Do you say root or root? Do you go up on the roof or do you go up on the roof? Nobody says tomato. Bagel or bagel? To me, it's a bagel. Milk or milk? Milk, milk. Pillow? Who says pillow? I don't think anybody says pillow, do they? Adult versus adult? Alright. Anyway, I could put one more layer on the onion. Nope, it's the -1 power. If I just put it to the 1 power, it wouldn't do anything. What does a negative power do? It flips it is the correct answer, or you could say it puts 1 over it. Okay, so if I just change this to a -3/2 power, that's the way you'd make it one more step more complicated. Okay, time to take attendance. I will get it done in a second. All right. So, watch. Square root of 25. 5. 5 cubed. 125. Last step, you put 1 over 1. There's your answer. Now, this would be easier if you just let you use a calculator. You could type that in, 25 to the power of, you have to have parentheses, negative, or you could use decimal, -1.5, that would work. Okay, and it comes out to 1 over 125. But calculators aren't allowed in this test. All right, so you won't be able to use the calculator on this test, so you'll have to be able to handle this by hand. All right, we aren't going to give you like weird square roots. Like we're not going to say, figure out the square root of 8 right now. But we will ask you to do things like square root of 9, square root of 100. All right, so I'd like you to try this one. 27 to the 1/3 power, just in your head. What's that? 3. 3 to 3 is 9. 3 is 27. Okay, so 3 is the answer. How about if it's this? 2/3 power. So you go 27 to the 1/3 first. Notice you do the root first, and then you do the squaring. So now what do you think? 9. Because this part right here would come out to 3, and then I square it. And make it 9. So the answer to this one's 9. How about now? 1/9. Does that negative on it? Just makes a 1 over the answer. It's the reciprocal of the answer. Okay, so that's about as intense as the fraction ones get. They have negative and they're a fraction. This part's the root. This part is normal, like squaring. And this part is flip or inverse. Put 1 over it. Yes? Oh, I shouldn't say inverse. I should say reciprocal. You're right. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Let me try to make sure you understand this. So let's say we had 5 to the 2nd power. Would you agree that's 25? How about now? 1/25. No, correct. It doesn't change the sign. What I'm trying to say is it would flip it. So let's say I had this, 2/3 to the 1st power. Do you agree that's 2/3? about now? 3/2. Flips it. That's it. Okay. You're right. I said, did I say reciprocal? Or did I say inverse? I think I said inverse. Yes, inverse. And inverse, the inverse of a number means to flip it. But you're right. A reciprocal has to do with changing the sign too. And you're right. I don't want to change the sign. So I want to make sure. I don't want to argue about what I said and didn't say. But the main thing is, do you get what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to flip it, and you're not supposed to make it negative. That's really important. Just because there's a negative here does not mean the answer comes out negative. You are absolutely right. Okay, let's move on. So let's say on a typical problem today, we have things like this. How on earth are we supposed to use what I just taught you to solve something like this? Well, you're not quite ready yet. First of all, if you're solving, you're trying to get the x alone, right? So what would be the first step? Divide by 6. I don't know if you noticed this, but what you're doing is you're doing the order of operations backwards. Get that normally when you do order of operations, you multiplies and divides first and adds, subtracts last. But on problems like this, we have a multiply and we have a power. Aren't you supposed to do powers first? When you're undoing things, when you're going backwards, when you're solving an equation, do the opposite of the order of operations. So, yeah, we want to get rid of that first. Why? Because normally powers would go first, so we don't do that first. We take care of this first. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides. X to the 1/4 is equal to 18 divided by 6, which would be 3. How do you fix this thing? X isn't alone yet, right? Yes. Well, tell me how to do it. Why? You are correct. I have a way of doing it that I want you to understand. If I'm going to put this, in your end, you told me the right answer, Jonathan, and nice job. How do I do this power here? What power could I put it to that would solve to the 4th? And that's exactly what you said. Because if I put a 4 here, because see, then 4 times 1/4 would make that equal 1, and then x to the 1 is what we want. So I'm putting it to the 4th power, and then 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, exactly what he said, is what we want. So 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27 times 3, 81. Thank you. Wait, hold up. Say it was x to the 1/8, and I want to get that alone. I would put, let's say it was I equaled that. Then I would put it to the 8th power. Yep, and 5 to the 8th. Yes. Well, here's a better one. Let's say it was x to the 2/3 is equal to 12, or 18. Okay? Then I'd have to put both sides to the 3/2 power. And now we have to do this, except I should have picked something like 16. That way I can do square root of it. So let's say I had this problem, and I put both sides to the 3/2. Cancel, cancel, x is alone, yay. 16 to the 1/2 to the 3rd. Because remember, that's the root part. We just broke up 3/2 into the 1/2 part and the 3 part. Yeah, but right now I have a problem to do with 3/2. Do you remember just a second ago I told you how to break that into 2 parts? The 1/2 part and the 3 part. See, 3/2, it's got the root part, it's got the not root part. Okay, so I'm doing the root part. Square root of 16 is 4. So final answer is whatever 4 to the 3rd is. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4, 64. So let's track that back to the beginning. How did we start? We started with this problem that I'm going to put in red. X to the 2/3 equals 16. Then we put it to the 3/2 power to fix that. You just learned a second ago that you can break 3/2 into 2 parts. The 1/2 part and the 3 part. That's a square root. Square root of 16 is 4. 4 to the 3rd. 4 to the 3rd. 4 to the 3rd makes 64. Final answer. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple now. So on your iPad, try that one. No, that's a tough one. I want to start with that. Let's try. I'm going to make one. those that are stuck. Let me see. Give me a second to the front row. Let me see. CA. There you go. Good. How do you start the stuff? Correct. And then you'd have x to the 1/3 equals 5. Now, 2 to the 3rd power. Very good. This cancels. 1/3 and 3 makes 1. X to the 1 is just x. 5 to the 3rd is the answer. 125. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, good. Here's a little trickier one. Try this one without me. This is a typical quiz question. Quiz is not today, of course. Quiz is not tomorrow either. Let's go. Back corner underneath the star, say names. So, what do you say? How do I start? You get why I did that? Is that what you said? Okay, good. Good. Here. Then this becomes x to the 2/3 equals what? Good. Now what? Excellent. All right. 4 to the 2/3 power. No, wait, no, 3/2, sorry. I was doing it upside down. See, this is to the 2/3, so I need to do it to the 3/2. Maybe you said that and I just wrote it wrong. Okay, now what? Could you break it in 2 parts for me? Excuse me. Okay. Okay, so this has become, sorry for the interruption there. This has become 4 to the 1/2 to the 3rd. You get that? All right. So that part's easy. What's that? 2 to the 3rd is? Raise your hand if you had 8 for your answer. Okay, I think you get it. And this is the part where you have time to work on your homework. So go ahead, work on your homework. You got a bunch of time. I will get some scores from you in a bit.